Hello, everyone. This is Jim Biringer here, NHLRumors.com. Please subscribe to the channel, like this video. We're talking about the signings that happened over the last couple of days in regards to Mason McTavish, Kirill Kaprizov, now Luke Hughes with the New Jersey Devils, how those contracts are going to impact people coming along. And let's start off with the big one, Kirill Kaprizov, record-setting deal, $17 million AAV, $136 million total. The Minnesota Wild had no choice. As we've been documenting on NHLRumors.com, Bill Guerin, the GM, owner Craig Leopold have been talking about it since the beginning. We're going to pay this guy whatever he wants. This is not a good negotiation strategy. And when the report came out, linked above, about Kaprizov turning down, not accepting, whatever the words were, about the 8-year, $128 million deal, $16 million AAV, well, they went back to the negotiation table, outbid themselves because, let's be honest, the Minnesota Wild could ill afford to lose a player like Kaprizov. He's the best player in franchise history. Is he the second best player in the league pay-wise? Well, the books say he is. On the ice, he's dynamic. He's got great skill. Point-per-game player in the playoffs. Is the most valuable player to his team, the best player in that franchise's history. So if he had left, it would have been a huge blow, detrimental to the team. Central Division so hard. And if he doesn't get hurt last year, he's in the conversation for the Hart Trophy, probably a finalist, maybe even wins it for what he was doing. Yes, is he injury prone? Sure. But you know what? Minnesota knew they had to keep him. They had to go to $17 million. Bill Guerin gets the 8 years that he should have gotten 5 years ago with Kaprizov when they were negotiating a deal back and forth. Even then, it was tight, but the player won there. The team and player, it's a win-win. There was a compromise. Kaprizov's like, okay, you want 8 years? Well, you got to give me $17 million. Bill Guerin and Craig Leopold said, fine. But the issue is they said they give the player whatever he wanted. And then when that report come out, then it was, okay, we're keeping everything private. Bill Guerin said that on SiriusXM NHL Network Radio, told the media that when they opened camp. Craig Leopold was saying the same thing to the fans and the media during his availability during the exhibition game. So wherever it came from, whether it was Kaprizov's camp, whether it was the team, it got out, and now they had to make sure nothing else got out. So they were keeping talks private. Again, one phone call changes everything. Kaprizov, record-setting deal. He gets 20% of the cap, all in signing bonuses in the first 5 years. And again, it's an 8-year deal based on this year's CBA, not next year's CBA that was just agreed upon right before the draft. He gets most of it front-loaded in signing bonuses and his full no-move, no-trade clause with the Minnesota Wild, pretty much setting the market, which we'll get to, about Connor McDavid, Jack Eichel, Kyle Connor, Adrian Kempe. Guys like that are going to be able to, let's just say, get higher values than we thought with the rising cap. And the players know it, right? The players know the cap's going up. Teams know the cap's going up. Before it was like, okay, one party knew about it, but now the players know about it. And the NHL is such a great state financially with, team values going up that eventually the players were going to have to get paid. Now, it's not like what the NBA is getting, but this is the most by a player right now. Whether or not Connor McDavid passes Kirill Kaprizov remains to be seen, but Kirill Kaprizov is the highest paid player in the NHL right now, and he is the highest paid winger in the NHL, not a center. He's a winger. So we'll see what comes down the line, but Minnesota gets their man. The New Jersey Devils also get their man. Luke Hughes signs a 7-year deal, $9 million AAV with Dougie Hamilton's AAV as well. This was a grind. Let's not kid ourselves. This one was a grind. Whether you want to believe it or not, the New Jersey Devils want a long-term deal, 7-8 years. Sounded like the party, Luke Hughes and his camp, were fixated on a 6-year deal, maybe even an 8-year deal, but they needed to get the AAV to a term that was relatively to where both sides said, okay, we got to get it done. And it seems like the Devils kept pushing the number up. The 6-year deals that the Devils were coming in with weren't to the satisfactory of the Luke Hughes camp. Pat Brisson leading the way. Again, the Devils moved a lot. Okay, they didn't want to go past Brock Faber. That's a fact. It's clear from everything that's been out there. They didn't want to move past that number. Maybe they didn't even want to move past Jack. but the cap's going up, and what Jack signed for years ago at that percentage, dollars-wise, is higher now. And Luke Hughes last year with Dougie Hamilton out of the lineup, Jonas Siegenthaler out of the lineup, took a step, played power play one. He was playing in all situations. However, it's a $9 million defenseman, same as Darnell Nurse, same as Cale Makar. This is a little bit of a precedent here for a guy that had 86 turnovers last year. His defensive game has to turn around for the New Jersey Devils. They get it done. Look, it is front-loaded a little bit for Luke Hughes, and he gets a lot of it in signing bonuses in the first 2 years, and then, everything shifts to just a base salary for Luke Hughes. And the Devils knew they had to get this done. As this thing continued to drag on, we're getting in Jeremy Swayman territory where it's like, okay, is this going to get done before the start of the year? Is he going to be effective? He's going to be in camp on Thursday, and the Devils address everything then. From years 3 through 7 on the contract, it's a $9 million base. Years 1 and 2, $8 million salary, $1 million signing bonus, 10-team no trade clause in year 6 and 7. But again, $9 million with the cap going up. Could this be a steal for New Jersey, or will this bite them? Again, you have Dougie Hamilton at $9 million. His name continues to be out there for some reason, even though the New Jersey Devils want to go far in the playoffs, want to make a deep run. Is Simone Nemec ready? Seamus Casey's there, but remember, Jonathan Kovacevic is out till at least January. He'll be on LTIR. Do they move Curtis McDermott? Most likely they'll send him down or trade him. The Devils still need a forward. Again, Hamilton will continually be brought up, but again, if you want to win, do you want to weaken an area that is really good for you right now? Remember, the Devils course corrected with their defense last offseason. Not to mention Jacob Markstrom needs a new deal. Initial reports from Kevin Weeks, 4 times $5 million a season. That's not bad for a goaltender right now. And he's your number one. Jake Allen's there for a while. And maybe your guys in the system aren't ready yet. So that's a fair deal for Markstrom if they decide to go that route. But Luke Hughes needed to get done. Again, he was called a top priority, number one priority, needed to get in camp. There was a lot of urgency to get it done. But again, one phone call changes everything. There wasn't much movement on the weekend, not even Monday night at Carter and Pierre LeBrun. Elliot Friedman said on SiriusXM on Wednesday that there was progress late Tuesday. Boom. About an hour later after his hit, now the deal gets done. The Devils moved up to $9 million, a 7-year deal. What's this do as we talk about contracts? What does this do for a guy like Lane Hutson in Montreal? We know Noah Dobson signed 8 times $9.5 million a season after the trade from the New York Islanders. What does that do for Hutson? He's the same. He's a 10.2C RFA like Luke Hughes. Estimates are he could get $10 million on an 8-year deal. Maybe he gets a little bit more. I think the Hudson camp was waiting for Hughes. Hughes was waiting for Hudson, but Hudson didn't need to sign now. He could wait till the summer. Hughes had to get done. Devils needed to get this done, and Hughes held the hammer, and he gets paid most now out of all the brothers. He's got $9 million. Jack's got $8 million. Quinn's got $7.85 million. We'll see what happens with Quinn Hughes in Vancouver. And we know Cale Makar is going to reset the market, maybe $12, $13, $14 million for a defenseman. Whereas Quinn Hughes is that $11 million defenseman. Salary cap's going up, and it's good to see the player salaries are going up as well. But again, Lane Hutson, $10 million. They're probably going to have to pay him that, maybe a little bit more, for a dynamic player that continues to look the part in Montreal during these preseason games. Calder Trophy. Now it's, hey, next step for Lane Hutson. Let's see, no sophomore slump here. He's a dynamic player. And now the Devils have to clear cap space. Again, they're going to look at Andre Palat, maybe Dawson Mercer, to got to move some money here to make things work down the line to accomplish their goals, which is to make a deep run in the Stanley Cup playoffs. The other RFA, Mason McTavish, he gets a nice deal. 6 years times $7 million, right? The 6-7 what these kids are doing now these days. It's a good deal for both sides, right? We knew McTavish was looking for 8 times 8 in Anaheim. Verbeek, hard negotiator out of the Steve Yzerman camp, was looking maybe for a 5-year deal. He was trying to get it at Trevor Zegras' deal, maybe a little less than that, but McTavish was in on that deal. So they go up to 6 years. He says $7 million. All right, let's get it done. Get the player in, because again, in Anaheim, new coach Joel Quenneville, he's already behind the 8 ball, new system, similar situation with Trevor Zegras. But Verbeek was adamant he didn't want to trade him. Teams weren't going to offer Sheet McTavish. Didn't want to give him first-round picks because Gavin McCammon was coming around, but also didn't want to do Verbeek's job for him, right? So your team offers $7 million. Anaheim has cap space. They're going to match it right away. And now you just did Verbeek's job for him. And teams didn't want to do that. McTavish, good player, #1 center, 2C. He's going to fit in real well with the Anaheim Ducks, but he wanted certainty. He wanted to say, hey, new coach coming in, I want to know my job's okay. And I'm going to be playing a lot. And the Ducks like this player. It wasn't a Trevor Zegras situation, though we were getting into that territory. Was he a Pat Verbeek guy? Zegras wasn't. It was clear from his interview from Greg Wyszynski, who was down in Philadelphia Flyers camp, that that was a no-go. So you could clear there was something going on there. This one gets resolved. Now Luke Evangelista in Nashville still out there. Again, 2-year deal. Does he get $3 million? There's some numbers out there. Again, this one's lasting a little longer than I think people thought. But again, Evangelista looking for certainty as well. He's seen all the young players leave. Does he follow suit? Because all those guys left and they're having great careers, great numbers right now. Phil Tomasino, you see Dante Fabro, guys that should be fundamental future pieces for the Nashville Predators, no longer that. So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. Again, we mentioned Lane Hudson and his contract. Now, what with Kaprizov signing, what does that do for McDavid, Adrian Kempe, Jack Eichel, Kyle Connor? Well, let's start with all those guys. I don't think any of them are connected. McDavid said he wants to win. It's long-term certainty. He wants to see this team improve. In order for the Edmonton Oilers to win with all the contracts there, with Darnell Nurse, with Bouchard's deal, with Draisaitl's deal, McDavid can't go past Kaprizov. He just can't. Maybe you get $16 million. That seems to be the number out there. Is he okay with being the second highest paid player in the league? He's talked about having fair. What's fair? There's pressure from the PA to push these numbers higher, right? That's why Kaprizov waited to get $17 million. They want the upper echelon guys to get their money, so it trickles down to that next tier. And then again, the bottom tier guys will still get their money, but based on a playoff salary cap, they're probably not going to get as much as they should because teams have to be within that cap. But they'll still get their money. Don't get me worried. That's why, you look at Adrian Kempe. He's talked about not putting a timeline or anything, but he would like to get it done before the season started. Maybe between 10, 11 million, it seems like to be the number. Is he $11 million winger? Well, what does that mean? If he gets $11 million, does Kyle Connor get 11.5 because he's a more productive forward than Kempe? Did they get the same thing? Feels like those two guys are connected, but again, every situation is different. And as reported for RG Media, again, I'm hearing reporters like George Richards, and I'm hearing agents talk about with the cap going up, players are staying. Maybe the free agent class we think of 2026 won't be there because these teams have money to spend on their own guys because they know about it. So that's something to watch. And I think with Eichel in Vegas, $13.5, $14 million is definitely reasonable. He's going to be past Mitch Marner for sure. That's something that probably gets done, but they're still working on it, right? Structure-wise, this is where the contracts and the CBA, because you have a deadline of October 6th to get all those front-loaded signing bonuses in. Once October 7th comes, that goes away. Those tools in the toolbox, deferred payments, signing bonuses, all those structures that were there are no longer there for these players. Again, you look at it, Kempe, Connor, Eichel, McDavid, like those are the big names right now. With Kaprizov off the board, you think something is going to get done. It sounds like Kyle Connor and Winnipeg want to make this happen. Same with Kempe and the Kings. But again, it's going to come down to dollars and cents, structure, and all of that. But again, it feels like more players are going to stay home than hit the free agent market, which is boring in the summer. But there's a lot more money to spend, and spend it on guys rather than overpay for the unknown. And I think that's what teams are going to do. Well, and one more note before we get out of here. Calgary Flames, Rasmus Anderson. there's a lot of talk about, oh, he could have been traded. There was expectations he was going to be traded, but that guy's a leader in the room, according to Don Maloney of, Calgary Flames. He is a guy that has a voice in that room. The Flames still want to compete. They still got Nazem Kadri there, Jonathan Huberdeau. Yet Zane Parek's coming up. But do you want guys to over punch their weight class in a year where the Flames expect to go compete for a playoff spot? Dustin Wolf got his money. The narrative around the Flames is changing. Guys are staying. Anderson's open to an extension. Do the Flames want to give him 7 or 8 years at $8-9 million? Do they want to only go short term with him? Again, there's time to work on this deal. He was only eligible in July 1st to sign an extension. He likes it there. The team likes him. Let's see how the season plays out with him. He could end up coming back. They could move him at the deadline. All options are on the table for Rasmus Andersson. And I think if the Calgary Flames want to compete, he's a guy that's got to stay there at the right price, similar to Mike Matheson in Montreal, and that'll be another video for another time. But big news, Kaprizov gets paid, McTavish gets paid, Luke Hughes gets paid. What comes next? Jim Biringer, NHLRumors.com. Please subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment below. Guys, take care. We'll be back again.